CBO, a criminal behaviour order, is a order that is placed on a person upon conviction. So if somebody is committing offences of similar nature, so in our case it would be more of the antisocial behaviour side of it, or shop theft, they have committed these offences and then have been found guilty of them and charged. We then put that order on them when they're in court for those offences. That order then states certain conditions and terms that have got to be met by that person. And these can include things such as a boundary perimeter, so they wouldn't be allowed within, say, the city centre, or specific businesses or shops that they may have targeted, which they've been found guilty of. As mentioned previously, they're obtained when you've committed several offences. When you've been found guilty or you've been charged and guilty and you're in court. So we can only give a CBO when you're in court. It's, as I said, it's an order that's placed upon the person upon conviction. So we've got to have them in court for other offences, and you can't just give a CBO singular on its own. CBOs can be quite unique. So for instance, one that we've just recently given out, certain stores were targeted, a certain business. So that business was reporting they have several within the city, and each of those stores of the same brand were reporting the same person. Rather than have a certain area, we made the conditions speak that it was just that business, as that business had reported this person throughout the city centre. So we had those conditions put on that business. Other conditions can be such as it can be the city. So if they are targeting all around the city centre, we put a boundary map on that, and that would stop that person from entering the city centre boundary unless they had a reasonable excuse. So it could be for a doctor's appointment, or they were going to see a solicitor, for example. But they would also have to tell the police that they were going to do that. So they couldn't just turn up without telling us. Prior knowledge, if we didn't, they would be still breaching their conditions. We've given the most notable, last two have been given out. One was for a male by the name of Jeff Day. I've been working in the bid now, with the bid, for 4 years, and in those 4 years, nobody, in my opinion, has been more notorious for a whole raft of offences more than Jeff Day. He committed burglaries, shop theft, he'd verbally abused members of the public, he'd verbally abused staff members of businesses, and he was on his own crime wave. And a lot of work has been done with other agencies, obviously Merseyside Police, Liverpool City Council, and we'd come together basically and obtained so many statements, positive statements, CCTV footage, and then offences that which Jeff was found guilty of. And we'd spoken to not just the city centre, also businesses just outside the city centre, and we put all this together. And this is obviously something that's taken a long time to put together because it was so in depth, over several months, and we obtained it. And the conditions that were put towards the judge, he found them unbelievable. There was a quote that he'd said that he had enough evidence from staff members and from businesses that showed that Jeff had no care for anybody else other than himself, and he was going to hit him with basically a sentence that was worthy of the offences he'd committed. With them, it wasn't just boundaries, so maps that were placed upon Jeff. There was also conditions that were unique. That's how bad they were. So one of the conditions was if he enters a store and is asked to leave within that boundary, and he didn't, he was breaching his criminal behaviour order. That is a really powerful bit of legislation that we have now to use against somebody who has zero care for staff, businesses, members of the public. And it was really something that we wanted to highlight to everybody who'd put a lot of time and effort, not only just on the police side of it, policing side, also from, as I say, members of public, businesses. Really lots of work went into that, and you know, it should be highlighted that if you give us the time and the effort and the statements that we require and need, then we will get some great results. In relation to Jeff's, his was, as I say, we worked with a lot of different agencies, but mostly the biggest problem we faced with that was Jeff wasn't just committing offences in Liverpool city centre that we were dealing with. It then came to light that he was committing offences up in the Myrtle Street area and London Road area there. This is a guy who was doing it city bound. So to obviously get people to be all on board, whether that was different businesses, different areas of Merseyside police, so there'd be different teams that would be dealing with that, different neighbourhoods. I had to work with different businesses that I didn't have direct contact with, but obviously then I'd liaise with the neighbourhood team of that area. The Liverpool City Council in relation to city watch cameras, etc., and things like that. So there's a lot of different people coming together and working together on this, and as I say, the results show for themselves because it's the best CBO that I've seen put together by everybody involved. And as I said, when we do that, not just the police, as I say, businesses, members of the public, we do get results like this one with Jeff. Massive difference. There's certain things that start, I mean, and again, and I just use Jeff's. Jeff was targeting businesses. Staff got to that point where they knew Jeff, they were obviously liaising with us, and Jeff would go in and target these businesses. I spoke to several staff members, managers, security, who were, I wouldn't say terrified, but they were certainly worried every day coming into work whether Jeff would turn up, whether he'd steal from them. And this plays a huge impact, not just on them, but also on the business side of it at a time when COVID has hit businesses and stores so much. And these guys are working on profit, and it's a fine line now. And when you have people like Jeff coming in and targeting these businesses and stealing from them on a daily basis, it then becomes like a constant problem, and they don't and shouldn't have to put up with this. And it's one thing stopping someone like Jeff and arresting them and taking them out the city maybe for a day or two. We needed something that was going above what would be normally expected, and you can't just keep going through with it. What's the long-term plan? And that's what we've done with Jeff. As I said, in this instance, it's a long-term plan that now, if he is seen, he will be targeted by the police due to these conditions. And it's highlighted to businesses as well that they know who this person is, they know what his conditions are, and it's important from us, from a policing point of view, that we make sure we get that out to people so they understand that this won't be tolerated, that if they do enter the city centre without a plausible reason, they will be arrested and they will be taken off the streets and they will be imprisoned for the length of time that they're worthy for. I would encourage constantly any business who are having consistent problems with offenders to report. We state that if you don't report any crime or any offences that you've been committed against you, it didn't happen. That's how we try and word it to you. We need the evidence. If we get the evidence and it's good evidence, we will proactively go ahead with this and target these people who are causing nothing but problems and misery for members of the public, whether they be working, whether they're visiting the city centre. We find that it's an issue that people don't believe, and through their own personal experience that they may believe, what's the point? And we get that quite a lot. But there is a point for a long-term goal with these offenders, and they will continue to target you because they believe they can get away with it. And it is up to us to try and convince you that with these latest CBOs, that, as you can see, if you give us the evidence, we will use it and we will target these people.